Yeah.
Buckle up, everyone, and welcome to Carpool Rugby League, a show where two rugby league tragics talk everything rugby league on your way to and from work. I'm Shano.
And I'm the chameleon.
Welcome aboard and on with the show. Griff, we're doing this Thursday night. Panthers are playing tonight. It's going to be, I think it's an interesting round coming up. There's some pivotal moments for some teams, some heavily injured, laden with injuries. Other teams are surprisingly better than what we probably would have expected. There's teams that I think would love to get 2 points because there's no real buffer yet. There's no real chunk of teams. It just seems to be a long list of teams, and there's certain teams that would like to be further up the top. And I think it's a pivotal week for some teams. But before we get into the team list, and I know, like I said, we're doing this late. We're doing this just before the game on Thursday. If you for context for people, what caught your eye last week?
The Raiders try to win the game. Sort of a bit of a miraculous try.
That pissed me off so bad. I think I was
Look, I got to pay credit to the Raiders. I think they deserve to win.
Oh yeah. I thought they played very well. Yeah,
they did. I think it was Hudson Young made the break. Went through lots of hands. It was like a Hail Mary play if there was, and Sebastian Chris went over for the try, and that was what caught my eye. But special mention to the Melbourne Storm, who were absolutely brilliant. A couple of times in just destroying the Sea Eagles. So the scoreline, Manly got some late tries, but Storm, they were dangerous. But it was the Canberra Raiders with that. I don't know if it was right in the last minute, but it was close enough.
It was. Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. It was done.
Yeah.
I'm saying it here, Griff. You can quote me. Preview to round 6. I think the Seagulls will be in a bit of trouble moving forward. I think we've seen Seabold in teams not being able to cope with this kind of attention well. I don't think they're going to cope with this type of attention well.
Well, it's not just that, Shane. It's also the fact that Turbo's out as well.
These 4 weeks.
Yeah.
From what we're hearing, so that's.
I think they struggled.
That's not
with
great.
Him, but
yeah, that's not great. So I'm just going to bring up a quick tidbit. We spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, and it seems like another player wants to change his allegiance. This time to Great Britain, AJ Brimson.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so he looks like he's well underway, doing all the things that he needs to do. He last played in an Australian jersey at the Nines, World Nines, which was a few years ago now. So his eligibility would be sweet, because I think they still have the 2-year grace period if you're an Australian player who has played in the green and gold. It sort of brings me. I just thought about it on the way home and I heard it. I know Australians. I know as Australians we often get frustrated with the Australian team and who could play in the Australian team. Another team, I was doing some sums after we spoke last week. New Zealand, they get shafted. Like if you look at some of the players who actually not only New Zealand born but eligibility who come to Australia, play for Samoa and Tonga to play Origin. I really think something needs. We said it a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not going to lay the point, but it just seems like something really needs to be done there. But yeah, AJ Brimson, that would mean he would be ineligible to play for the Queensland side, and we know that
he has played for him in the past, so he's got a jersey or two in the closet.
Four games for the Maroons, and we know that Kalen Ponga is tossing up his allegiance regarding where he wants to play. So, that's.
Look, I'll summarise my thoughts by saying I'm not having a go at any one individual, but this is your national team. There's got to be a line in the sand drawn, and I believe that line should be drawn if a player is going to come into the NRL. He is in a position where he makes a decision, and that decision is for which country do you pledge your allegiance. I mean, obviously, it seems, some people qualify for 4 or 5 countries.
Yes.
You say you're going to pick one, and whatever decision you make, that's it. You are, if you don't get selected for that team, you don't flip-flop. That's it.
Yeah, I think my thoughts.
The biggest global sport is football.
Yep.
And they don't chop and change.
Oh, it would be. I think to a lot of Dutch players, and it would just be for a player to change their allegiance. And look, I get it. Like Christian Vieri when he played for Italy, that I would play for Italy too. But yeah, I just think, and my thoughts. I think New South Wales is a pathway to the green and gold. I've always thought that. I think this 2-tier system has to go. It's got to. It's got to go. And you know what? When we had Samoa in the final. They're not. I think then it would. I think what we're doing here, is we're sort of sure Samoa and Tonga are stronger, at some expense of New Zealand and Australia, in certain cases, and I think that I just think that we really need to start thinking about. I think this tier system has run its course. I think it's time for
that's just based on whether they have a local competition and pathways, and they don't have any of that, and they're not going to have it. There'd be more, Samoans and Tongans living in Australia and New Zealand, particularly
in their represented countries,
in their countries that their heritage is.
Yes,
and that's not a criticism at all. It's just
look, if
that's the way it is, and I don't begrudge them, but you can't flip and flop.
No,
if you want to represent the blue and white of Samoa, by all means do it, but make that choice, and that's your choice for life.
Yeah.
Likewise, the red and white of Tonga, you may have been born here, brought up here, but if your heart says Tonga,
do it.
It's saying Tonga for life. And it's saying, I'm not taking a blue jersey, I'm not taking a maroon jersey.
Yeah.
That's my allegiance. And obviously, as part of a wider international competition as a result of that, but, we could spend 2 hours talking about this.
I agree. And, now we've got this discussion about America coming in. America's got, how many millions of people? You're the geo teacher, Griff. It's
300 plus million.
I was going to say high 290. Yeah, 300.
No, I think it's over the 300.
So you've got 300 million people to choose from. They've got enough people. So that's it. Yeah, we've said that enough. We've gone on about that far too.
I think the other interesting thing, Shano, that's become topical is the real prospect of perhaps the NRL being involved in the Super League.
Yes.
At the request.
And I think that'd be a great. I think that's
absolutely
a really good thing. I think that's going to be fantastic.
We need strong international.
Yes, that's the only way you're going to get there.
Representation. That's what separates us from the other major code in this country.
One other thing I'm just going to bring up quickly. We have a double header this week in Perth.
Of course.
Initially, they were expecting something in the order of 37,000 people. Ticket sales have gone not as well as what the NRL would have liked. Interesting. That's exactly it. And interesting that the Premier of Western Australia has come out and basically said it's a clear backlash against what you're doing to rugby league in the West. I agree with wholeheartedly. I think it's I love Peter V'landys and what he's done, but I think this is, if I have one criticism, it's It's Perth Rugby League. We need a team in Perth, and we need it quick. What's happening in Adelaide this weekend with the NRL or South Australia, they're taking games to the Barossa. 200,000 people descending on Adelaide. We need to get that Western foothold. It's. I can. Don't know what you think, Griffin. I'm not saying this to be nostalgic about the Bears. It'd be great. I actually love the Perth Pirate bit. I thought it was great. I just feel like if we don't get to the West soon, it's going to slip through our fingers, and we'll never get there. It's a time zone. I actually think that if we don't get there within the next 2 years, it's never going to happen. In which point, I think the NRL needs to seriously consider whether it is the NRL, because it's become the Eastern Seaboard.
The thing is that this game. Roger Cook is actually a league-friendly guy.
Yeah, I don't see what the issue is.
But he's made, he won an election. Supposed to be negotiations off while the election was on. He sort of come out and said, we're not going to go, spend, an inordinate amount of taxpayers' money giving it to the NRL.
Yes.
So, that's a pretty big statement if you were to turn that around. I don't know, it's not the first time politicians do backflip. But bottom line, sort it out, get the team there. I don't have any allegiance to the Bears. If they're the Bears, great. But if they're not the Bears and they're Perth something else, just as great. The thing is it's not about North Sydney Bears. It's about having a team in.
Yep.
And if they are the Bears, the Perth Bears, that's fine. No problem with that.
That's my.
But get the team there.
They have to get the team there. We missed the opportunity when the Force left. That was the perfect opportunity, and unfortunately, they didn't jump on it. Well, tonight there is a game. It's at Suncorp Stadium. It's at 7:50, so we get a wriggle on, so you can be there and watch. So you can watch it, Griff. Not be there. It'd be lovely to be there, wouldn't it?
Well, they'd be there. It'd be nice if they win. It's not so lovely if they lose.
But Brisbane Vegas. You got the 14th place Dolphins taking on the 15th place Penrith Panthers. Why my tip I think is going to come in this week is I'm going to say Dylan Edwards is back at fullback. I'm loving Blaze Talangi, Griff, at 5'8". I'll let you talk about that. Tom Gilbert, he is in for the Dolphins, and Ray Stone is out. My apologies, people. My notes just finished. Yes, I make notes, funnily enough. Look, Tom Gilbert, he's returned from suspension. That should strengthen the back row. I think the Dolphins have demonstrated some sort of resilience over the past and adaptability. It's all for naught, but they have shown some aspects of their game where you go, you know what, they're a good 60-minute rugby league side. It's just that 20 minutes that seems to seems to die down. I just don't know. For me, and this is a problem with this team. For me, I just look at the team dynamics here, and it just looks like, although you've got players that have played in these positions before and played in these positions for years, there's just times and sets where it looks like the Dolphins are going, hello, I'm Jeremy Marshall King. What's your name? Oh, I'm Daniel Sasai-Fidi. Lovely to meet you, Daniel. If you run this side of me, I'll pass it to you next. Yeah, that's a great idea. And who are you, Baldy? My name's Felice Kafusi. Hello, Felice. I'll pass it to you next. That's what it feels like. And it just feels like they're meeting each other for the first time. And they've been together for so long. Look, like we said, Dylan Edwards is back. Look, I think Edwards just strengthens the side. I'm loving Blaze Talangi in a 5'8". I think that's going to be a good thing. Another one that's in is Luke Summerton in at hooker. I'll let you talk about Penrith, but I think we're going to see a bit more of a direct team tonight than what we've seen in the last few weeks. Luke Summerton there with Isaiah. We might actually see that middle tighten up as well. I've got Penrith, Griff. You tell me what you think.
Well, I'm going to tip him, but that's the Panthers. But I'm not confident. The Dolphins showed last week that they do have some very, very good attacking weapons. The Hammer, Herbie, Avarillo,
Yeah,
like Bostock on the wing, Sarko. The whole back line is dangerous in attack.
I agree.
But they haven't really fired up until last week. That's going to give them some confidence. Now, Penrith's problems have been around defense and ball control. They've got to fix the ball control because the loss in it. It's been. I've said this to someone. It's been a scenario that's played out week after week of give away a penalty, give away a 6 again, give away 6 points. They haven't been able to repel sides, which they've done in the past.
That's actually a really good point. That is, isn't it? You're 100% correct.
And that's why they've been losing games. They've scored a fair amount of points, but it's been the against. They lose one of their best defenders in Mitchell Kenny. Somerton is a good attacking player, but he's not as solid in defence. Blaise Talangi comes in. He really does need to go well, and he's going to be targeted. But to be fair, he hasn't been there other than the Melbourne game. It's not his fault that the defence out wide has been very shaky. Hopefully Edwards coming back is going to be able to talk to them and give them direction. But I'm tipping Penrith, but I'm not confident. As I said, I'm very wary of the attacking arsenal that the Dolphins do possess.
Yeah.
But Penrith to win.
The other thing for me, Griff, it's been a while since I've looked at the running stats in the NRL, and when you look at all runs and all run meters, there's no Penrith player there. And I know Edwards being injured one thing, and
Toto as well.
Toto as well.
So I
think that's massive. Really. When you look at those two players, they've been injured and they haven't been there, and I think that's telling. I think that not only Penrith are struggling to get themselves out of trouble. In saying this, I think I'd love to know the stats. It just feels like Penrith's errors either happen off a kick, first or second tackle. It's rare.
They happen regularly.
Sort of when they get into the set. Shane, when they get into the set, it seems like they hold the ball.
Last week, the Cowboys had a man in the bin, and twice, Penrith dropped the ball like 10 meters out from the Cowboys line. Same player, who I'm a big fan of, but he had a case of the dropsies last week. And the Cowboys actually went downfield, and actually, I think they got a penalty, but they got downfield and they scored. They actually won 6-0 while down a player. Now that's not winning rugby league games, I'm afraid. So they're going to have to improve the defense, but the ball control is key. You control the ball, you don't have to do as much defense. So
cracking,
and they know that.
Can I just say another cracking stat which shows why I think he is one of the best, if not the best in the league? Line break involvements. You've got Nathan Cleary's at the top of that list, and half line breaks again. Nathan Cleary's at the top of that list. So he's had very, very few opportunities.
Is that this year?
Yes.
Well, he's played like
2 games.
He played the full game in Cronulla against, over in Vegas against the Sharks. He played the full game last week.
Yep.
He played 7 minutes against the Storm.
Yep. And that's his stats. That is brilliant. In my opinion, if Penrith can get field position, he'll put them into holes. That's what that tells me. That tells me that tells me why he is one of the best halfbacks, and that's actually stats by the NRL. So that's not it's not Shane Watson making them up. That's
I wasn't aware of that. But, wow.
That's the
effectively he's played 2 games. And,
that's right.
All right.
I think that's pretty awesome. Tomorrow,
for New South Wales.
great for New South. That's what I was looking at. Incidentally, I think half line breaks. Dane Laurie's number 2. So just to put it out there. On 3. The first game of Friday night football sees the 12th place St George Illawarra Dragons taking on the 8th place Gold Coast Titans. Oh, my apologies. They're at win. Sorry, that's the 12th place Illawarra Steelers taking on the 8th place Gold Coast Titans. Look, this is an interesting game. Lachlan Ilias, by a sheer miracle, has kept his spot. Coaches don't like getting rid of this guy. Despite ongoing criticism, he must have a family member working for KO, because the KO Mini didn't show him kicking out in the full.
Oh, really?
Last week. It was so funny. It showed like the 4th tackle of the Dragons, and then the next thing you see is the Parramatta attacking, and you're like,
oh, I think Braithen Astor is his manager, so maybe
it's like how did Parramatta get there, I wonder. Yes.
Look, he created that was a massive error and crucial to the winning of the game. But I will say this in his defence, and I'm not shying away from the fact that he shouldn't have kicked it out on the full. But it was a diabolical set of 6 from the Dragons that went absolutely, whatever, they might have went 20 metres, if that, in the first 5 plays. And then on the last play, there was not a dummy half there.
Yeah.
So by the time someone rushed up and threw just get the ball out of there, Ilias had no time at all for that kick because it was such a poor set of 6.
My thing with Lachlan Ilias, I don't know if last year there was a kicking out in a full stat, but geez, he must have been up there. Because for South Sydney, I was at a game against Para. This could have even been the year before. Was it last year? And he kicked out in a full twice, which led to tries. He kicks out in the full. It feels like, when I, as a South fan, it felt like he'd average 1 a game. So when you saw it, I know he had it. There was a.
Oh, there's obviously an issue there.
It's like you just feel like, oh mate, I'm glad it's happening for someone else, and it was not just us. Look, there's no real massive positional changes for them. Same with the Titans. The Titans, they don't have any major changes except for one, and that is the exiting of Big Tino this week. He is out of the side. Sam Berrells is in.
It's a late change as
well. That
well.
was a very late change, and I actually
Jojo Fafita is out,
and
Alan Fitzgibbon.
Yes.
I don't think it's the father of Craig. I don't think he's come back at 70 plus years to spot on the wing.
But yes,
he's making his debut.
He is making his debut. Look, I've got the Dragons winning this one, and I don't know why. I think I looked at the sides and I looked at who's in.
It's a 2-horse race.
Yeah, I looked at who's in and who's out, and I did my whole, well, if I'm flipping a coin, I'm picking the home side. I picked them because when I went through both teams and I went, who is the guy who's playing some really good footy at the moment and who could be a game changer? It's Clint Gutherson. For me, Clint Gutherson has been playing some phenomenal football. And I'd go as far to say, as this is no disrespect to Brimson and Campbell, I'd go as far to say I feel he's the best player on the field. And with a lot of people around you stuffing up, that doesn't help. But I just think he can do it. And there's no reason or rhyme with this one. I've just got the Dragons.
Yeah, look, I'm going the other way. But again, I've got no faith in either of these two teams. So the Dragons threw away again 2 points last week. I tipped them. I was not happy about the fact that they lost for a few reasons. I was liking, and I know there's some Eels fans who listen to us, but I actually don't mind Para when they're 0 and something. But that was taken away from me last week by this dreadfully inconsistent team, the Dragons. They did the same thing against South, led by 12 and lost.
Yeah.
Now, that's an issue. They were going well. Gutherson was having a great game, and they threw the game away again. Now, they could come out and beat the Titans like the week before they beat Melbourne. Like, they've got it in them. But the reality is, it's very rare that from the first minute of the game till the 80th, or whether it be the 83rd or 84th, that these guys are consistent. Likewise, the Titans are inconsistent. They can be brilliant or they can be dreadful. Again, I tipped them last week, and they were pretty ordinary against the Dolphins. One of them's got to win, and I just went with the Titans. I think I did my tips yesterday, but I think I've had them down, even though they got no Big Tino. I've got no faith in either team.
Yeah, I think for me, it's their game management. Their game management is poor. Where, just run the ball into the corner. When you're up, just give yourself every opportunity to win the game. Kick it deep into the corner. Play out your sets. You've got the forward pack that can tackle. It just seems like they panic ahead. When they're ahead, they panic. And the problem with this St. George side is good teams are now working out, and not even good teams, good teams will work out. Sorry, that's what I tried to say. We're 12 down against the Dragons. We can win this. It's not a problem. It's a bit like the Dolphins last year. There were if you got 12 points down against the Dolphins, you're like, it's okay. It's just 2 tries. We can do this. And I think that's them this week. The game at 8 o'clock at Suncorp Stadium yet again. We see the second place Brisbane Broncos taking on the 16th placed Sydney Roosters. There's a few ins and outs which will do a bit of a swapsy around. Look, the guy who is playing this week is Adam Reynolds. He went off with a hamstring strain. I think his leadership amongst the team is going to be very important. You've got Mark N is in. Victor Radley is named. You've got for the Broncos some reserve replacements that are really it. Marty Tapau's in the team. He looks like he's broke his way into the interchange. Billy Waters is there 14, which seems to be the number for him at the moment. When I look at these sides, I just think I've got a gut feeling that the Roosters will be 1-17. So when you're doing your tips, have a look at the Roosters 1-17. The Broncos are just playing some really, really good football at the moment. This week's news highlighted by the fact that the Broncos management can't find room for Adam Reynolds in their cap. I don't think that's going to affect the way he'll play this week. He has got a bit of an injury cloud hanging over him. It'll be interesting to see whether they change it up a bit on the bench to cover that. I don't think they will. I think they're going to be 1-17. They'll come out and play, and then if need be, Ben Hunt might shuffle things around. I like the Broncos in this one. I think the Roosters are just down on confidence at the moment. Last week, again, the Roosters clutched defeat out of the jaws of victory, it looked like. And it was a really weird game. That a team, you're playing a team that lost a winger. So they lost a winger, a half, and a 5'8", and yet we're still able to find a way to beat you. Now, the past was what the past was, and everyone's going to say, "Oh yeah, we won forward." And this is where the NRL just needs.
It's not the only one.
No,
it's been forward this year.
And this is where the NRL just needs to change the rule. They can't get this out of the hands backwards. They don't know how to police it. It's
Well,
the rule needs.
as someone who's refereed, Shane,
the rule just
not
needs
so
to change.
much in rugby league. I have been a rugby league referee at junior level, but I refereed, as you have in schools, but also I've done a lot of refereeing in touch. You are not looking as a referee at where someone's hands are. You're looking at the ball.
That's exactly
this
right.
Whole
and this is
out, backwards out of the hands. It is the biggest load of poo, let's say, that exists.
This is why I agree with you, Griff, wholeheartedly. And you look, and I trust your word. You've done a lot of refereeing in your time. Can I run this past you? Because I think at the moment this is why we can't police it as a bunker ruling. Let's just change the rule to say the player must catch the ball behind the point of where the ball was thrown.
Sounds fair.
Done. Then you can do whatever you want. Pause it, draw lines, have a grid, whatever you need. Hawkeye it, whatever, to tell me if that ball was forward or not.
The bottom line is they lost.
They lost, and
they shouldn't have lost, but they did. They were in a good position. They put up a good fight for a while. I think most people would have thought Souths were going to win that game.
I just think when our halfback went off early, very early. And
I'm talking before the game.
Oh, before the game, most definitely.
Before the game.
I thought, but in saying that the Roosters' defense was very good.
Yeah. Anyway, they're a bit of a shell of their former selves.
100%
the Roosters, and they're going to likely get spanked by the Broncos.
I agree, Griff. I actually think this could be a bit of a cricket score, and I think last week, I know a lot of the people in the media going, last week was close. Last week was close because there was some significant... and that led to one person being on the bench. South Sydney had a one bench rotation for most of the second half, and you still couldn't find a gap. So
they should have won that game, the Roosters against a very much weakened.
And
South Sydney side,
and again,
as a result of losses in the game, not even before the game, in the game.
And again, they had the game in control.
Yeah.
They just had to kick the corners, do the right thing, and they just started knocking the ball on, missing tackles.
Well, their halfback has been a casualty now.
Yes. So he's...
they're not beating the Broncos.
Savala comes in. Valet. Sorry, did I say... Valet?
No, Telly Savalas, isn't it?
Savala, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. So he's in. All right. Well, brings us into Saturday. If I can get this to work. And on 3 o'clock at Optus Stadium in Perth, we have the 10th place Cronulla Sharks playing the 6th place Manly Warringah Seagulls. The Sharks, they've got no real massive positional changes. A few people coming in on their extended bench. I just need to see Talakai of the S-Kind. He's coming in on the bench, so he's there. There is, however, some changes for the Seagulls. Hopewati coming in for the injured Trebojevic. I know they've put Trebojevic.
Oh no, he was there last week. Tommy didn't play last week.
Tommy did play last week. That's right, 100%. Sorry. So he's still in the side. 4-week injury, it's being reported. We've got Peter Volandi's favourite prop.
Yeah, Ashayole's back.
Josh Aiole. Who did I see on the radio? Someone called it Aioli, and I'm like, that's not right either.
Well, that's very, it's closer than Ole.
Josh Aioli. I mean, that's not right either. They've got the I and the L around the wrong place. Anyway.
He might like garlic on his pasta or something. But he's back.
Yeah. Look, for the Sharks, I think the Sharks are a really stable lineup. For me, their biggest problem, and I'm going to say it now, it was exposed in their loss last week. In that last set that won them the game, the key missed tackles made by players on the field, and I'll call him out here. Nico Hines missed the howler. He just should have wrapped the ball up. He just should have grabbed the guy. It would have been over. He missed the tackle. There was some, and that was all game last week. For me, the Sharks are just missing tackles, and that's, last
they're not
year
going as well as people expected,
No,
or
and that was
certainly
last
they
year.
would have expected themselves.
Yeah, and that was last year. That was their big selling point. Our defense. Have a look at it, and it's like, well, this year it doesn't seem to be as steely as it was. We've got some key inclusions for the Seagulls that could really help them. I think in the forward pack especially. I think their biggest problem is they don't know how to play a game or adjust a game that doesn't have Tommy Turbo in it. And you know what? He's one of the greatest players. So you can't do that. But when there's no Tommy Turbo, it's like the team finds it so difficult to adjust without him. This is a tough one. I picked the Sharks in this one with absolutely no confidence. I always find it hard to pick the Seagulls when Tommy's not there. That's all I've got.
Yeah, I'm going Sharks. I think they'll win. I'm not certain. Manly still a good side, but they're no Turbo. They were overwhelmed by the Storm last week, who were absolutely purple hot, the Storm last week. And Manly did score some tries of their own. Off the top of my head, I think they got 24 points or something like that. So the problem was the other side got twice as many. One of these teams, or both of these teams, I had sort of up near the top of the competition before the ball was kicked off. I'm stuttering on the Eagles, even though they're in a decent position currently. Sharks are a little bit lower on the ladder, but I think long term, I think the Sharks probably more upside, particularly with the possibility of some internal friction within the Eagles. So I'm going to stick Sharks here, but I'm not confident on this one.
Yeah,
I got 3 out of 8 for the last 2 weeks, so don't listen to me. Don't base your tips on what I say, or actually, just tip the other team.
Yeah,
you get 5 out of 8 better than 3.
I'm a bit like that myself. The fifth place South Sydney Rabbitohs. This is the second half of the doubleheader. This fifth place South Sydney Rabbitohs, and you know what? I for the life of I do know why. I need to be quiet. I was thinking at first, why are we playing in Perth and having early games? The next one's in Darwin, so I get it. The fifth place South Sydney Rabbitohs.
Also, where they? Oh yeah, it is really early in Perth. It's like 1 o'clock and whatever.
3:30.
Yeah, 3:30. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other ones in Darwin.
Okay.
I'd say, you could play that game probably at midnight and it would still be hot. It plays the North Queensland Cowboys, who are in at 13th at the moment. There's some significant positional changes for South Sydney, and it probably is why they're the underdogs at the moment. Cody Walker's out, Jamie Humphrey's out, Rawalawa is out. So their starting halves are out, plus the guy they got in to cover the wing position, who has actually, to be fair, played some pretty good football. On top of that, we do have the return of Alex Johnson. Ewan Aiken will make his first appearance for South Sydney in at centre. The halves will be Latrell Mitchell and Jaden Sullivan. And as for the back line, it's a fairly stock standard one with Lachlan Hubner taking 13. For the Cowboys, the big in for the Cowboys is Ruben Cotter. He's returning in a lock. That's going to add some steel to that team. A lot of people asking, where is Lewis Dodd? He is suspended this week, so he's suspended. So he couldn't get a run even if he wanted one. The other question is, I've been asked during the week, Josh Schuster, what's happening to him? he will make his debut in New South Wales Cup this week, coming from an injury. So he's returning from a calf injury from memory. So he's playing New South Wales Cup because he hasn't had a lot of football in the last 18 months under his belt. But look, I suppose my thing, the guy for me who's just turned South Sydney's fortunes around, other than Wayne Bennett, is this young fullback Jai Gray. He's been playing some fantastic football. He's out on his own at the moment in the daily M points. He is leading the competition in runs and run meters. So he's definitely ripping in. And there were sets there late in the game when the Fords were gassed. He was doing the first and third hit up. And I think there was actually a set where he did the first hit up, the third one, and then somehow the ball landed in his hand and he did the fourth one. So he's doing some exceptional work. Alex Johnson returns. I think that last time he played, where South Sydney looked vulnerable was when he got injured. I think that Penrith exploited that. It's going to be interesting to see what Ewan Aiken does. That it seems like teams favour that three-quarter corridor defensively against South Sydney. They just seem to think that that's where value is added. I think there was a hot map of line breaks that South Sydney conceded would be in the three quarters. It just seems like teams love running out there. Look, you've got some very good players for the Cowboys. I just look at I look at the Cowboys forward pack and go, it's a really good forward pack. Like it can do some really good things. I think where at the moment the Cowboys aren't getting the sort of leverage that they need is from their back line. In saying that, they won last week. They scored a lot of points, but I really do think their forward pack lay that foundation. And if South Sydney can stop that, likewise, when you look at South Sydney's back line this week, it is a bit of a tapestry, but they do have some strike power there. And Latrell Mitchell running the show in at halves, in at 5'8" there. I think that's going to be pivotal. He kicked the ball out twice on the full last week, trying new things. That was also his first game back. I think now he's trained the week at 5'8". That's different. Jaden Sullivan made a break last week, which put Jai Gray in. He also made a miss, which led to a try, but that's okay. Jack Whiten in at centres. Look, I know you know who I'm going to pick, but I actually do believe, which is dangerous because usually when I think this they lose. I actually do believe South Sydney are going to win this one. I think the forward pack just need to match it. Tavita Totola's looking better every week. Keon Kolomatangi, he's putting his hands up for a Blues jersey. Jai Arrow, in his current form, will be playing for Queensland. And off the bench for me, I thought Liam LeBlanc was unlucky. I thought he had a really good game the week before. And Tallis Duncan, when he comes on, is really shoring up that middle. So, yeah, I've got South Sydney. I think the Cowboys, whilst their forward pack are very good, it's going to have to take a lot for their back line to fire up. But Scott Drinkwater finds some form, along with Tom Dearden, who we know what he's like, and Reece Robson, well, we know his talent. So, yeah, I've got South Sydney.
Yeah, I haven't tipped South much this year. I did tip him. I'm pretty sure I tipped him against Roosters. They've surprised me, and it's a very, very different team to last year, where this time of the year last year, Shane, you were not a happy man. It's completely different, and they're winning games that probably they had no right to win from some of the positions they were in against some of the teams, including last week, where they're in a position of vulnerability because of injuries during the game. Lots of them.
That's their coach.
But they've got a steel about them that hasn't been there for some time. I was really impressed with what I saw from the Cowboys last week. Even when they were behind on the scoreboard, I was early in the game. I thought, gee, these guys look really slick. And they were. There's speed there. And I think, the South's backline is a bit of a patchwork due to the injuries. and I look through that list, and there's not a lot of speed there at all. I know Johnston, was a speedster back in the day, but he's had a lot of injuries, not as quick as he once was. Still a great finisher. But Aitken, Whiten, Tass, there's not a whole lot of speed there. That's, I think, where potentially the Cowboys can exploit them, because they've got plenty of speed. Purdue, Darby, Murray Tulungi's reasonably quick. Drinkwater, obviously, and Dearden is very quick. And I think that's why I'm tipping the Cowboys, but I'm not confident. But I'm going to. That's what I put down when I did my tips yesterday. Souths are a big chance based on the way they play now, grit, and Ray's been front and center with that, and he's had a fantastic year.
Next game at Darwin, TIO Stadium in Darwin, we have the Parramatta Eels taking on 17th place Parramatta taking on the Canberra Raiders, who are 7th. Both teams don't really have any major ins or outs. Just got to check. Right. It all seems to be. I think Ryan Madison, he's coming in on the reserves. He comes in on the reserves bench. So he's not going to be playing.
He's out of favour.
No, he is out of favour. Most definitely. Look, we've got the Raiders again. There's no real significant changes in both of these teams. When I look at the
Lomax won't play. He's still listed there, but
no.
I think
I agree. I agree.
He's got a broken foot. He's out for 6 weeks.
Yeah, he's not going to play. Look, I think the biggest problem with the Eels is in attack they have just become such this predictable team, and their defense again has so many inconsistencies. The Eels are a team that can be 10 meters out all week and get repeat set after repeat set after repeat set, and most teams would be able to repel it. They have very, very little in creativity. They struggle significantly, and without Zach Lomax, who I think, it's funny when you look at this team and he's on the wing, you go, well, hallelujah, we can actually kick wide to him. And something from Dean Hawkins I've seen in his past that he hasn't seemed to have done a lot of this year. Run at the line, mate. Like, come on. Like, you don't become this catch and pass player. That's not you. On the other side, you've got Canberra Raiders, who are a bit different. Their attacking ability can come right out of the blue. Whatever Canberra side turn up on Saturday, will dictate who's going to win this match, or dictate probably how well they win this match. If they're in for the game, well then Canberra could put on a cricket score. They are playing some very good football. Hudson Young's playing, he's been brilliant. I want to do a shout out to Canberra's bench. Ricky's got Canberra's bench really firing, so when someone comes on, it's not as if someone of lesser talent or lesser skill is coming on. They're doing the job for him. I've got the Raiders in this, Griff.
Yeah, I'm Raiders. I was really impressed with them last week. They were back to form. They had a few off weeks, but a lot of attack in this team. A very, very good pack of forwards, including, as you mentioned, the Benchies. I think they're a bit too good for the Eels. Now, I'm just going to give you my tips for the last two games, Shano.
So the game's about to start. I was just going to say, let's just roll this through.
Okay. Yep. So I'm going to tell you that I think the Storm are going to bring the Warriors' winning run to an end.
Agreed.
But they'll put up a good fight. Too many guns, and we saw with Hughes back last week. Hughes, Munster, or the big four as they are now. Grant, Pappenhausen there. The guys around them are pretty handy as well. So
too good. They got too many guns to fire. Yep, I agree.
And in the last game, I'm tipping the Tigers. They went down. They've already played the Knights this year, and went down in a game that they should have won. I didn't see their game against the Broncos last week. I think they scored a few points, but the Broncos scored a lot more. Luai didn't play. The Knights have got a host of guys out after last week. I actually tipped them to beat the Bulldogs, which shows what an idiot I am as far as tipping goes. But their defense was really solid in that first half, and the Bulldogs got a few tries, including one straight after halftime, and pretty much the game was over because the Knights, poor old Saifidi tore his calf on the run out to the field, and he took the field and he was off within 2 minutes. Schiller, the winger, in like the second play of the game or something, he got injured. He was off in a concussion. So they were really up against it. And they tried hard, but the Bulldogs just cancelled them out, particularly Ponga. We didn't really see any of them at all. I think the Tigers can get them based on the fact that the Knights are missing some. Shayna, what are your thoughts?
I struggled with this one. I had the Knights. I thought, I just thought at home they could win. I then looked down at the ends for the Tigers, and I've changed my mind. I just think Brent Naden, Jerome Luai, that, like you look at those players that are in, Jerome Luai especially, I just think he's such an important player. I know Brett Naden's on the reserves bench, but you just never know whether he's going to be named 18th man or find a way in for Jack Bird. I just look at it and just go, once a team with Luai in it, I think they're very hard to beat. I'm changing my tip to the Tigers. I've got to get on the doctor. So that's it, Griffo. So Griffo's gone out there. He's gone to watch the Panthers play. Everyone, thanks for listening. This is, like I said, this is a rushed one to get us a podcast before the game start. And everyone, have a great week. Hope your team wins, unless you go for the Cowboys, in which case I don't. But thanks for listening, and we will catch you next week. Bye, everyone.